Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to Create VR tutorial series, where you learn by watching other VR, AR, and MR professionals create the magic. I'm Marcelo Lewin, an immersive content evangelist, creator, producer, and the guy behind howtocreatevr.com. My guest creator today is Akash Kuttappa, who leads the product and design team at Scapic. Akash is passionate about making creation for immersive mediums more mainstream by conducting workshops, seminars, and talks across the globe. Today, Akash will be showing us how to quickly create WebVR experiences that use 360-degree photos, videos, and 3D objects using Scapic Editor. But before we get started, I want to remind you to register at howtocreatevr.com. It's free and registration gets you access to video tutorials, practice assets, podcast interviews, ability to favorite, comment, create watch lists, plus much more. It's real quick and easy. Just visit howtocreatevr.com and click on the register for free button. All right, Akash, welcome to the tutorial series.
Thanks for having me here, Marcelo.
I'm glad to have you guys here. I'm always on the lookout for cool tools to help creators quickly create VR experiences. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Before we jump into the tutorial itself, why don't you give us a little bit about your background? How did you get into VR?
Sure thing. So back in college, right then, Google had went and launched their Google Cardboard headset. It was during this time that I was really intrigued about this new medium that was coming in, right? So people till now have been consuming content as 2D medium. So they started off with text, and that was good. I got an information. And then came images and videos, which made it a little better and a little more interactive too. And then came immersive content. Now you've got 3D, you've got 360, then came in VR, and then you have AR. And there are so many more immersive mediums which are coming through. So during this time, when I actually saw all of these mediums coming in, and Google Cardboard was the only headset to visualize this medium back then, I was really intrigued, but I actually couldn't go and buy one because it was only in the US and it hadn't come to India yet. So this is where I went and started to create my own headset of my own. And I went and got the lenses. I made it by myself. And that's when I actually tried out VR. It was a little too choppy, of course, because I was using my mobile phone and a pretty much made up headset. But that's where it all began. Eventually, I ended up meeting the founder of Scapic right now, called Sai Krishna. We started debating and ideating and talking about how we really need to simplify content creation for VR and AR, because we saw that the headsets were actually catching up. There was a lot of hardware changes which are coming in right after the cardboard. I mean, before that came an Oculus, and then after that, there were more headsets which were coming in. During this time, content wasn't really there. There were a few 360 videos here and there scattered around, but content really wasn't there. There were tools such as Unity and Unreal and others out there. But for a normal person like you and me to get started, it was pretty hard for them to do so. That's where we started ideating on this whole concept of making creation simple. Since the web is a medium that's accessible to everyone, and it's not just a platform like Android and iOS, we ended up going and building out our whole tool on the web itself. We first initially started off with WebVR content, where we allowed people to create VR and AR experiences. Of course, on the web, it was marker-based initially, but then from there onwards, we have grown and we have went on to add a lot more to our tool to help people create for multiple immersive mediums and not just VR and AR.
I agree with you 100% that making it easy for people to jump in is going to actually help expand the market. Even for high-end developers, there are times when these high-end developers don't want to reinvent the wheel. They want to do something quick, but still provide a lot of interactivity. So if you had the full power to control the future of WebVR, where would you like to see it go?
So with WebVR is the current API which exists on the browsers, right? And that's how people are consuming experiences currently. But then soon XR is going to enable a lot more than what's actually possible right now. And with WebGL and all these other technologies which are being improved constantly, what's possible on the browser is really changing. Before, whatever we had on the native, it was actually pretty good, and people could not sort of translate the same experiences through to the web. And there was always a certain disconnect between the two. But with these technologies being improved and companies such as Mozilla and Google and all the big companies out there working on such standards, it's really going to help push this whole wave of actually consuming content and even building for VR and AR and making it much more simpler over there. With tools like ours and with spatial computing coming in, and you would have seen that Magic Leap has a browser called Helios already, where it lets you take in content from the existing web and drag it into your world. And these are 3D objects which you're dragging in. These are immersive mediums which you're dragging into your world. So we see a future where people are able to create content in 3D spaces itself. And of course, it's all going to be powered on the browser, where we won't really have native experiences running over there. And since it's all powered on the web, people can consume it both on a spatial medium or even on their 2D mediums such as desktops or even mobile over there. It's going to be really more collaborative too, since currently you already see people using Google Docs and any other tool out there, right, where they can actually go in and edit at the same time. So we see the web as being a collaborative medium where people can come and create together.
All right, Akash, I'm going to go ahead and let you get started. And if I have any questions, I'll jump right in.
Perfect. If you'd like to start creating WebVR or AR content, you can just head over to a tool by either signing up, or you can just go and hit on login. And since I'm already logged in, let's take you directly to the dashboard. So this is the Scapic dashboard. This is where you can access various templates, and these templates lets you create multiple experiences out there. Think of this as being similar to what you'd find on WordPress with themes, where you can create like a food blog or a travel blog. Similarly, over here, you can create either a Facebook 3D experience or a Facebook 360 experience, or even an interactive VR experience to start with.
I have a quick question for you on this. Are we able to create our own templates here? Let's say I create something that I may want to duplicate constantly. Are we be able to save something as a template here?
So the templates over here are more from a tool perspective, where we give you different tools in order to export it out.
That you provide, right?
The experience itself, yeah.
Okay.
So in the future, we're going to be opening up our platform so that people can create more templates for us and for them to sort of showcase their own templates over there. So if you like to create a template which is a Magic Leap template, you can even do that too. So that's something we're opening up.
Yeah, kind of like in Google Docs, you can save a document as a template and then share it in your organization.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
So then we've got MyScapes, where you can showcase your creations. And then we've got the analytics page itself, which is whatever we have created can be viewed over here. And you can see the numbers and the various data points with regard to your experiences itself. Of course, we even give you a size meter to see how much you're using when you upload your assets.
Quick question on the analytics. Are you tracking basically for the entire experience, how it's viewed, or can we within an experience track the scenes?
You can currently go and track the overall scape itself. And we even provide you numbers where you can go and track the number of hotspots and how many hotspots people have clicked on within the scene too. So this is something that we provide there.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. So you can see what hotspot is popular or what isn't.
Yes. And other than that, I mean, we will be building out heat maps as we go ahead. And that's something that's there on a product pipeline. But yeah, for now, we do provide you these details.
Very cool. Makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, so let's go back to Create New. And let's get started with an interactive VR experience. So this should be pretty analogous to what you'd find on PowerPoint, where you have slides. Similarly, we have scenes. So you can get started by going and clicking on Create New. So now that we clicked on Create New, you can add various 360 media to your scenes. So if you click on the filter over here, you see that we provide 360 photos, videos, color fields, and 3D templates. So whatever you find in these collections are mostly 360 photos and videos. And an example of a color field would be gradients. So if you'd like to add a gradient to your scene, you can do that. But for now, let's get started with a 360 photo.
This is all your assets, right? That you guys provide. So do you guys have, and maybe you'll cover this later, but do you guys integrate with, let's say, like Google Poly or Google Images or any other kind of services out there to bring in assets?
So on Elements and on 3D objects too, we do have integrations with Google Poly, Sketchfab, and we even have integrations with Unsplash and Pexels too. So you can bring in all the media that you want from there. And even if you uploaded something to Sketchfab, you can access it over here.
Fantastic.
So now that I've added my 360 photo, you can just look around. And now let's get started with the experience itself. So I'd like to tell a story where we're talking about how we started off with the prehistoric times, how we started off with the creation of the earth, and then let's go to where the dinosaurs came in and how they got extinct. And let me put that in over here. And then finally, I'd show you the modern day age where we show you what's happening in the present. So let's get started over here, right? Let me go first, add in the sun. For now, let's just think of this as a molten earth. So I'll just add this in over here. And if you notice, right when I add the object N, you get handles around it. This is very similar to what you'd find on PowerPoint or any other 2D editing tool out there, because we didn't want to provide axes to make it complex. So that's where we provide handles, and you can just rotate your model. You can even rotate it on X, Y, and Z. And you can even move the Z depth over there. So you can move it forward or backward. This might look like we're scaling up the object, but it's actually moving it closer and farther. So when you put on a VR headset, you'll actually see the difference. So right when I've placed my object over there, I can scale it up or place it down, and then I can move it around by just clicking and dragging. So let me just go turn on the animations for this one, which you'll find in the action bar below. So you'll see that we provide animations and effects for 3D objects. If the object has any animations, we let you sort of go and enable them. So you see that I just turned on the animation and the object started rotating over there. So now that I'm happy with that, I'll just click outside to deselect it. And now that we've got a molten earth, let's go add our earth to sort of show what it turned into and what the present day earth looks like. So let me just add this in. And you might think that I'm doing something weird over here where I'm actually overlaying the earth on top of the sun, but you'll see soon what I'm trying to create. So let me just scale this up, and now you'll see that the molten earth is within the present day earth, right? And I'll just add an animation to this too where it's revolving, and I'll just click outside. So what I've just done is added in a molten earth and added in another earth over it. And you saw how simple it is for me to actually move it, translate it, and rotate it around. So we've got a concept of hotspots where you can either add interactivity within your existing scene or link it to other scenes itself. So let me talk about the first point over here. That is adding interactivity within your existing scene. I'll just click on hotspots, and you see that it adds a default hotspot over there. And now I can click on props and then select my earth, and now you see that the earth went translucent. So what just happened is that you linked your earth to this hotspot, which means that when I share my experience and click on this hotspot, the earth is going to show up. Let me show you what this whole effect is going to look like. And of course, when you link your objects, you get different transitions that you can bring in your objects with when you click on the hotspot. So the hotspot pretty much acts like a trigger, which brings up the object over there with this transition. I'll just click outside, exit the hotspot mode, and hit share right away, just to show you what this whole experience would look like. So let me just call this prehistoric and share. Copy the link, open another tab, paste it in over there, and you'll see that when the experience open up, it's the molten earth, and when I click on the hotspot, it brings the actual earth over there. So here we're showing the transition between how from the molten earth we actually came to the modern day earth.
Quick question on the hotspot itself. Let's say I want to make the molten earth the hotspot itself, and I don't want to show a hotspot icon, right? So I want people, like, let's say I have a voiceover and I go, click on the molten earth and see what happens, and they can, in VR, they can touch it or whatever, interact with it by clicking it, and then today's earth shows up. Can we do that, or our hotspots always have to be visible with that icon that you're showing below it?
So currently, from a UI perspective and a UX perspective, one thing that we saw generally when we were actually testing out these experiences in VR is, of course, you can add in some text around it and make the hotspot show up that way and ask people to click on the molten earth. But the best interactions are when the hotspot is visible out there and it's actually different, so that I understand that that's something that I can click on. But of course, we do let you add in such a transition. So I can go and move my earth first. So I'll just do that so that my molten earth is clickable, and I can then go and select my hotspot and unlink my earth. So you'll see that it goes back to the way it was and the hotspot disappears. And now I can go and click on my molten earth, and you see that it gets selected. And now that's the hotspot. And I click on props and select the earth. And now the earth is linked to the molten earth.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. So basically when you're setting up a hotspot, you are, number one, either adding one of these images, that hotspot image, or you're selecting a current object that can be the hotspot, and the prop is really what shows up after you clicked it.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
So now that we've done that, let's go to the next part of the earth, right? So this is pretty simple. So here we add in another 3D object of the earth. And this is a transition phase, right? Like where we talk about the dinosaurs. So let me just add in the earth and rotate it around. Click outside to deselect it. And then now I can go to 3D objects again. And you see we've got a large collection of objects over here. So let me go to the animal kingdom because I want some dinosaurs. Click on this dinosaur and you'll see that it gets added in. I can rotate it around, bring it closer, and then scale it down as I want it right there on top of the earth. Let me just go add in some asteroids to tell the actual story. So you'll see to do that, we've got a search up there where you can go look for rocks. And now we can click on this and you see it gets added in. You can rotate it around. And since it's an asteroid and the earth is of that scale, let me just scale it down. And now we go to another thing that we provide on our tool, which is media. So here we have an existing library of icons and illustrations, which you can add from, or you can choose from our integrations such as Unsplash, where every image that's present on Unsplash will be present over here too. Or you can choose from Pexels, which provides stock videos for you to add in. So for now, let's get started with an icon because we're talking about asteroids, right? So let me just go search for fire because I got to show the asteroid hitting in. So let me just rotate this, place it there, and perfect. So now we got our asteroid hitting in, and we're going to show what happens next. So we told the first part of the story, which is the molten earth and the earth around it, and we show the transition there, and then the dinosaurs came in, and then the asteroids hit, and then they went extinct. So that's where I'll go here and add in a 3D object from Sketchfab. So here I can either search from my existing assets or just go to Sketchfab and hit search over there. And you'll see that all the assets that are present on Sketchfab show up over here. And of course, these are the assets which are downloadable. I think this one looks great. So let me just click on this. And before you actually add an object to your scene, you need to first link your Sketchfab account. So if you've got a Sketchfab account, this button would say link Sketchfab. And right when you've done that, you should be able to actually add any of your models or any of the existing assets on Sketchfab itself. So I can see what my model looks like.
So while you're doing that, quick question. When you search there on Sketchfab, I know you're searching, I guess, through their API for downloadable content. Are you also searching for like low poly count so that way this works in all devices, VR devices?
So currently, Sketchfab doesn't add that as a part of their API. So what is count is something that you can't limit by. So that's where we currently limit by size and also the kind of assets over there. So currently we showcase the featured assets, and as you search, we add them in. Soon we will be providing an integration where we optimize these assets for you because we have built a pipeline which sort of reduces the assets and provides you different models so that it opens on different devices accordingly, depending on the internet connection that you've got.
Makes sense.
So as you have your model, we'll be helping you sort of optimize your model for different devices.
Right, cool.
So now I added in my T-Rex skull. I just saved that. So let me just scale it down a little more. Okay, perfect. And now we go to the next part of our editor, which is text. So unlike normal editors where you'll actually see a text box added in and then you go type over there, we provide text templates where we've got existing fonts which you can choose from, and you can go ahead and edit these fonts or edit the text over there in order to actually add some text into your scene and make it interactive. So let me just choose this one, place it over there, and if you notice there's an extra button that shows up on the top right corner of my handlers, and that's the edit icon, clicking on which opens a 2D edit where I can add in my text. Okay. And then I can call it a prehistoric creature. Click outside and you see it changes right away. So this text is 2D text, and you see that I can sort of read it and sort of becomes flat as it's 2D. But we even provide a 3D option where you can hit on the text option down there, and it opens up a 3D mode where now if you see, your text has been turned into 3D. So currently I'll leave it 2D, and I can go ahead and change the colors too by clicking on the color option down there.
Quick question on the fonts. Are you able to now or in the future in your roadmap be able to change fonts? So let's say if I'm a company and want to use my own font.
So yes, we will be providing that. We're going to allow you to sort of upload brand assets itself. So including your logos, colors, and even text and fonts. So this is something that we've gotten a lot of requests for because, I mean, everyone's got their own personal brand assets, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to be converting them. And currently we provide this because these are really optimized for the web. And we make sure that your experience runs smooth.
Makes sense, yeah.
So I'll just go ahead and change the colors now. So let me just make the text red. And you see that it changes right there. And now I can deselect it. So now once I've done that, maybe I don't want this text to show up right then, right? So let me just go back to media and search for an emoji that actually shows up as an icon over there, clicking on which should then bring up the text. So I add my media icon, and then I use my hotspots again. Click on this as a hotspot, and you'll see that I'll do something similar to what I did with the molten earth. That is, I selected the molten earth and then linked it to the other outer globe. So here I select my icon, hit on props, and then click on the text, and now that's linked. And now let me add a scale and transition over there. Let me click outside, and now my text is linked to my hotspot. So here, let's actually show something more, right? I mean, this is cool, but what if we could actually show what the dinosaurs would look like in the previous environment? Of course, it's nice to actually show the earth and show a dinosaur on top, but what if we could actually show a dinosaur in its environment itself? So let's go back to scenes by clicking on the scenes icon up here, and this should take you back to your scenes page. Here, I'm going to hit on create new and create another scene. So I clicked on the nature views collection and hit on park. So right when this happens, it loads up and you can see that this is a 360 feet scene of a park. So this almost looks like a forest. So let's add in a dinosaur over here. Here, we let you even upload your 3D objects. So I can go ahead upload and then choose my model and then just hit open and it should show up right there. And we of course provide you a size limit over this so you can actually keep tab on the assets that you're uploading. And right when you upload your asset, we optimize it down so that it opens up fine on different browsers and different devices out there. Now I'll just click on that object and you see that it gets added to my scene. And this is a T-Rex itself. So let me just scale this up and add this to my scene. So let me just place it over here and rotate it over there. Okay, this looks good. So now let me go my animations and let's try the first animation. So you see that the T-Rex moves around and then it bends forward and actually roars, right? So let's do something more with this. Let's add in some fun elements over here.
Quick question before you do that. One of the things with 360 video and adding 3D objects, and this is not just your app, but any app, right, is that it doesn't look realistic because he looks like he's floating. Now, I guess we could make it more realistic by adding shadows that cast on the rocks at the bottom there. Is that something you guys are looking at doing? Is that a possibility to do even within 360 video and photos?
Yeah, good question. So currently in 360 photos, that wouldn't really make sense, right? Because this is an external medium. But we can actually make it look good by adding in a fake shadow. So this is something that you see on ARCore and ARKit 2 when they initially launched. That is, they added a shadow down there, which actually looks like the object is casting a shadow down there. So we can actually add in a shadow, which makes it look like it's a part of the 360 scene itself. So that's where we can add in a shadow at the bottom and it'll look like it's actually casting a shadow, but of course it won't add up on the rocks because that's not a 3D object. But since it's a 360 photo, it'll still look realistic enough for the person to believe that it's actually there. And soon we will be sort of exploring how we can take the object itself and cast a shadow from there.
Cast a shadow, yeah. Yeah, because specifically when you start animating, when it animates, right, your shadow is not going to move with it because it's just a photo of it. So yeah, animating or casting a shadow so that when it animates, it moves with it would be fantastic.
Yeah, so that's something that we'll definitely be launching.
Very cool.
So let me go to my 3D objects and let me add in a tiny dog to sort of show the scale of these two creatures over here. So I just add that in, and you saw that the dinosaur sort of bends down, right? So I'll just add the dog over there to sort of show the scale. I think that's where the dinosaur sort of bends down. Let me actually see where it actually looks down. So you see that it rotates, scales up, then it looks down. Perfect. Okay, it's actually rolling at the dog. So here I can add in some text too, where I can talk about the height of the particular mammal and the animals itself. So I add that in, and the dogs were, let's say, 0.5 meters, and let me just scale that down a little, place that over there, and since it doesn't go with the background, I can add in some color. And with the T-Rex itself, I can add another text, add that up there.
Can you duplicate items? So like duplicate that height 0.5 meter and bring it up, and or you can't duplicate items yet?
You can do a Control-C, Control-V, so that's keyboard shortcuts. So
okay, so you can do that. Great.
Yeah. So 6 meters, text, change the color. Perfect. Okay, let me just place it down there so it's more visible. Okay, so that's done. And now, when I go back here and I go to my first scene, there needs to be a way for me to go from this particular scene to that one over there. And this is the next feature of hotspots, which is when you add in a hotspot, you get in another option to link to a scene instead of a prop. So right here, when I click on scenes, I hit on Untitled 2, and you see that it opens up over here to this scene, and it shows the dinosaur right there. So one thing that I can do over here is I'm actually going to turn it around and point it at the other direction. So I'm going to point it over here, and now I'm going to save the orientation. So this is actually where the user is going to start the next scene from. So when you go from one hotspot to the other, this is the perspective that they're going to be looking at when you go from one scene to the other. So this is the second scene, and now I'll hit on save orientation, and I'm taken back to my first scene. So here I'll just click outside, and I've added in a hotspot over there. So now when I hit share, my experience is shared, and I open up the link which I previously shared over here. You'll see that when it opens up, it's updated with the new media, and I've got my Earth which shows up to show the transition, and then I've got this where it shows the asteroid hitting, and then I've got my T-Rex, and I can click on this to bring up the text, and then I can click on this hotspot to take me to the other scene itself. And when I look at that, I have my T-Rex animating. But wait, I don't really have a way to go back. So let's add in another hotspot over here to actually take me back to the scene that I came in from. So I go back to my experience and click in scenes, go to the other scene, and let me add in a hotspot here that takes me to the first scene. So I click on hotspots, let me add in a hotspot here, click on scenes, select the first scene, and choose the perspective as the T-Rex itself, and hit on save. And now we've added a hotspot from this scene back there. So now when I click outside, you see that the hotspot is added, and I can go back to my initial scene and go on continuing with my experience. I'll show you what this looks like soon when we have added in the next part of our experience. So for this, we're going to show what Earth looks like in the modern day. So let me go to the 3D objects and add in another Earth. So I add that in, scale it up, and place it down there. Now, before we do actually go ahead and build out the rest of this experience, we need to add another scene where we'll go ahead and add a 360 video to actually show a live video that's playing. So you can do this by going over to collections and hitting on 360 videos, and you'll see all the 360 videos that show up. So let me choose Seashore because it'll actually sort of fit this whole environment over there. So you'll see there's a 360 video. You've got the waters sort of flowing in and the waves. And this looks like a nice scene to show what the modern day time looks like. So to add in a 3D object over here, it works in a similar manner to what you just did in the previous scenes. You hit on the 3D object panel down there and go to 3D objects. And even here, I'd like to add another animated object. So I'll just hit on this air balloon and I will go and place it down there. So let me just scale it down. So I've placed it there. And what I want to do is for this hot air balloon to take off into the sky. So let me just hit on animations and select the first animation. And you'll see that the hot air balloon goes up into the sky and then comes back down soon. So we have created a 360 video and added in a 3D object over there. So let's link our existing timeline to this particular 360 video.
The animations on the objects, those are baked into the objects themselves, right? You're not animating within your app.
Yeah, so it's baked into the object.
Right.
So if you have an existing object where you've sort of built out these animations in this 3D tool out there, you can definitely bring in those objects and add them in over here, and the animation works just like what it would in the 3D tool itself.
Got it.
So let me add in a hotspot, hit on scenes, and choose my third scene. So here I'd like to get it started with the hot air balloon, and I save the orientation. So let me now click outside, the cross button, and now I've linked all three parts of the experiences. Of course, I can add in some text, so to sort of let the user know or the viewer know what they're actually looking at. So now when the text it added in behind the earth, so I can bring it ahead by using the Z depth, and then I can go place it down there. And then say present time. Okay. Let me now click outside, and it looks like I've linked all parts of my experience through. So one interesting part that I forgot to mention is when you like to share your scene, if you'd like the perspective to show up from here, you can just save the experience and then hit share by saving this as the perspective. So you'll see that the preview saves as that particular perspective and your experience opens up from there.
Quick question for testing out, do we always have to share as we're testing, or do you have the ability just to click on the HMD icon and just look at it locally without having to share it constantly?
So the experience auto-saves as I'm doing it. So if you see if I do any interaction over here, you'll see that it auto-saves over there, and then it says all changes saved. So your experience is saved directly, which means on your HMD, if you just refresh, your experience is updated already.
I guess my point to the question was, by sharing it, it's public, right? And if I didn't want to make it public yet, can I test it prior to making it public?
So this is something that we're going to be coming in soon, which is live editing.
Got it.
Where whatever you're doing in your experience, as you move it around, we're going to sort of reflect the same thing on the HMD itself.
Right. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
Yeah. So now when I go back to my experience and load it back up, I enter my experience. So we have the story where we have the molten earth and the earth shows up, and that's what it came into. And then we have the dinosaurs and the asteroids hidden. And then we have the dinosaurs which went extinct. So you talk about the T-Rex and a little bit of information over there. And then we can actually go and see the dinosaur in its own time. So we take into that particular 360 scene where we can take a look at that. And we can go back. And then we can actually go to present time where we click on this hotspot and it takes me here. And you see that the object is already animating and the video will start playing soon. So currently the video is buffering. So once that loads up, it will start playing over there.
A quick question on the video. Is there a size limit? Can you do 4K? Can you do 8K? Or are you limiting to HD?
Currently we limit it to HD, and we are going to be soon sort of providing 4K. And once we sort of improve our video software over there, we're going to be definitely providing 8K soon too.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So you see that once I'm here, I can't actually go back to the existing scene. So maybe we should add in another hotspot there too. So let me just go into scenes, Untitled 3, and let me just add in a hotspot somewhere over here, which takes me back to the first scene. So just hit there, and I want it to show up at present time. So then I hit save orientation, and then click outside. And one interesting thing I noticed is when you go back here and go to this scene, you're starting off the experience over here at the waterfall, but how will the user actually know that they have to turn back? So this is where we take advantage of something that we use in VR and in VR experiences, that is audio, right? Audio makes a huge difference to these experiences and can actually go and narrate the story for you. So here we're going to add in an audio which plays at the back, and this is going to be positional audio. So you're going to hear the dinosaur roaring, which is actually acting as a trigger for the user to turn around and look at the dinosaur itself.
So the audio that you place here, you can actually, it's actually 3D audio. So wherever I place it, it's going to come from that point.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So let me just go to my media, go to my stuff, and then I have the roar uploaded over here. Let me just add that in. And you'll see that it adds an audio icon, and it's 3D because one, you can move it farther away too, or closer if you want the audio to play. And then you have your controls where you can play the audio. Right? And then I can hit close. So now when I...
Can you make the audio icon invisible?
Of course. So the audio icon's not actually going to show up. This is only in editing.
It's only in editing. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is not going to show up once you share your experience.
That makes sense.
Yep. So let me just go back and just hit share once more just to make sure that it's shared. And then go refresh this experience.
And by the way, you're on Google Chrome, right? But if you were, let's say, on Firefox, you would have an icon at the bottom right that allows you to see it in VR?
That's where when the experience starts off, you see that there are two buttons. One is Enter 360 Experience, and the other button is Enter VR Experience. Currently, since I don't have a HMD connected, it says VR not available.
I see. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you open it on an Oculus Go or a HMD itself, or if you open it on any other device with a HMD connected, you can actually go and click on the VR button and view your experience in VR itself.
Got it. Perfect.
Yeah. So now when I go in here, you'll see that the experience starts off.
And if we were in the HMD, the audio would have come from the back.
Yes, of course. So you can actually, when you're editing your experience, if you like to actually understand where the audio is placed, we do suggest putting on headphones, because there you can actually see where it is on the left or the right, and you see how it makes a difference when you have these headphones on, because then you've got dual audio, right? So it's not mono over there. So you can actually see what it sounds like by placing the audio and moving it around when you have your headphones on.
Now, question for you. Right now, it's obviously spatial audio, but is there a way to put ambience audio so it plays everywhere as opposed to spatial, or is it only spatial for now?
Currently, it's only spatial, and we'll soon be providing an option to add an ambient where it plays either through all your scenes, that is through all three scenes,
right?
Or you can play it on one scene itself, because this is something that we had our users writing back to us and letting us know that they wanted this as a feature. So this is something that we are definitely taking into consideration, where we actually want to provide ambient audio throughout scenes or in individual scenes itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cool.
So yeah, this is pretty much how you can create a story or actually create a walkthrough. There are multiple things that you can create using the interactive VR template itself. And you can go ahead and use the hotspots, and we'd be definitely happy to see what you create using this template. So on the other hand, you can go back to the dashboard and actually use the other templates to create for the different mediums itself. So Interactive VR Experience gave you a link which you can go open up on different devices or in a HMD itself. Or you can choose a Facebook 3D template where you can actually go and export it out as a Facebook 3D experience, or a Facebook 360 template where you can actually create your experience just like what you did over here, where you created scenes, and then actually export it out as a photo where you can download it and then re-upload it to Facebook itself, where you can go consume your 360 photo on your newsfeed, hence making your whole feed immersive. And then we've got Tiny Planet and a whole lot of other templates which are going to be coming soon, where once WebXR hits in, we're going to even let you create interactive AR experiences on the web itself. So we definitely look forward to you using these templates, and we are more than happy to see what you create.
Akash, thank you so much for participating in this tutorial. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your tool. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
So they can reach out to me on Twitter. My handle is at Akash Kuttappa. It'll be down in the description. And they can even reach out to me by mail. So that'll be akash@scapic.com.
Excellent. We'll go ahead and put all that in our show notes as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marcelo.
Just a quick reminder, if you want more video tutorials just like this one, assets to practice with, podcast interviews, plus much more, make sure you register for free at howtocreatevr.com. So until the next episode, I'm Marcelo Lewin. Cheers, everyone.